polarized state of our nation right now, Kelley Newton and Heidi Petak, longtime friends since junior high who occupy opposite sides of the political fence, have committed to having weekly conversations and to put them out there for you unedited. This is the first of those conversations. Good morning, Kelley.
Good morning, Heidi.
It's you and your coffee cup.
My Seattle coffee cup.
Nice.
Just finishing up my coffee, yeah.
I have a Colorado coffee cup. I should be using it.
Yeah, you should represent. Totally.
How are you doing with all this political craziness going on in the world?
I have to admit that I've got a bit of the ostrich putting the head in the sand a bit. There's so much intensity and then having a blanket at home who's trying to navigate online schooling. My capacity is at its limit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's probably like that for a lot of us right now, because I have kids doing online school a couple of days a week at home as well. And I was thinking today that I really need to read more and watch more in preparation for our conversation today. But I'm with you. I'm like so overloaded with everything going on. It's hard to keep up with it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we've talked about this before, and I've heard you say that before, and how it seems like a really common response to think, I need to educate myself better before we have a difficult conversation. And what is that about for you? I want to know.
That's a great question. I think it's all about wanting to make sure that I have my ducks in a row and my facts straight, and that I represent the Republican Party well.
What's your fear if you don't?
Well, I think for all of us, our greatest fear is shame. And that would be my greatest fear, is that you would, check my fact and be like, well, that's not true, Heidi. Did you not read this article that actually says this? And so I think, yeah, it's definitely shame. Do you think there's anything for you?
So, well, before I answer that, because this is just, it makes me think of something else. So if it's shame, then I imagine it's more about not having a good enough rebuttal, as opposed to any worry that I might change your mind. Is that correct?
Right.
Isn't that interesting? So it's like, because I feel like I'm similar too. Like that I come in to difficult conversations with an intent to hold my ground and represent my team, as opposed to an intent to learn more, right?
Yeah.
From someone who like has a different viewpoint. I imagine, just looking out there, that that's pretty common. Like nobody's actually looking to have their mindset expanded or changed.
Well, it's kind of been interesting today too, this morning, as I've thought, your job in this isn't necessarily to represent your party well. It's to walk in with a curious mindset, which we just had that conversation last night, that
right.
I need to walk in with a curious mindset and be prepared to ask really good questions so that I understand you better and understand where you're coming from better. And that's a whole different approach, walking into a conversation like this, to say, yeah, I really want to understand. I want to know.
Well, so do you think it's possible to have a curious mindset and not be open to change and transformation?
I suppose if you're doing it for the sake of relationship and the sake of knowledge, like my intent in this is to continue my friendship with you. And I think part of the way that we love each other is to listen to understand, ask good questions, listen to help the other person feel heard. Um, but yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think you have to be open to change?
I think so. I mean, I'm aware that I came into this project with you with the intent to try something different because I was just so mad after the last election. And so my willingness to go to Nashville and meet your community and sit down and have dinner and go to your church, like I was only able to do that because I opened myself to curiosity as opposed to staying in my judgment. And I would say that by being in relationship with you, I have less anger towards the other side of the aisle. I still get angry about certain people and tactics that I see displayed, but it's not an overarching, like, you all are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more able to see nuance and complexity. And there are ways in which, I mean, especially after meeting your community and seeing what your church in Nashville was doing, like I had to acknowledge, like, wow, Heidi's doing far more good in the world than I am. And so are a lot of her friends. And so, like, that caused me to have to change, and that I got off my high horse about, like, my way is better. Right. And I'm curious, are there any ways that you have changed by being in relationship to me?
Well, I think that trip out to Seattle to be with you and your friends, I mean, I recount that so often of what it was like to sit around your table and have conversations with them and to see and hear the things that they're passionate about and to feel um, their welcoming embrace of me, you know. And I think being aware also of, like, when one of your friends had the "hate has no place here" pin on, and how we, by the end of the dinner, where I feel like that's something we all can get on board with. Like, that's something that we all share, that, yeah, hate has no place here either. And I think feeling embraced by your community and feeling their love for me, even, that was transformative. I think there's beauty in that. There's beauty to be found in that. And I think that is the value of the work that we're doing, which helps to depolarize, because the people that you're friends with, I would never be friends with here in Colorado, because we would never run into each other. We don't even run in the same circles. But I think with some intentionality, like you coming to Nashville and me going to Seattle, we were able to create relationships and friendships that are totally out of our comfort zone, but ended up, I feel like it made my life richer in getting to know them.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So that being said, and because we're trying to keep this short, let's go into one polarizing topic with each other.
Awesome.
uh,
So
okay. Can I propose one?
I'm remembering back to our last conversation that we put out there, which was when you said, Heidi, are you ready to get off the Trump train yet?
Yes.
You remember that?
I do.
Yeah. And so as I've thought about that particular question, how would you rephrase that as a curious question to me?
That not feel very curious? I see that would be a very in your face question. So, okay. Do you still support Trump? I'm curious if you still feel tied to Trump's platform.
It's hard to ask a curious question, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, without it being so direct. Yeah, so it's just like, you know, with everything I'm seeing, that all the impacts I'm seeing from the Trump administration that seem alarming to me, I'm curious if you are having a similar experience, and if not, tell me what your experience is. And no, because what I'm curious about is like, do you still support him? And I can see how that's a charged question, because it comes from my belief, my opinion that it doesn't make sense to support him. So what is it that draws you to supporting Trump, and do you still feel the same level of support that you did when you voted for him?
That's a great curious question.
Thank you.
I think that was so good. You know, there have been times over the last 4 years that I have thought, oh my goodness, I don't like the way he communicates, and I don't like how insulting he is. And so there have been times that I've been like, I don't know if I can vote for him again. I just don't know. But I think the longer that this has gone on, and how frustrated I am with how biased the media is, and they don't tell any positive stories. And there are some out there, and they don't tell anything. They don't have anything positive to say. And the verbs that they use are like lashing out and craving attention, and like the verbs that they use give themselves away, I think. And I've been really frustrated. And you know, I've told you before that I have a heart for the underdog. I always have. And so when I see somebody getting terribly beat up by the media, then it really makes me want to support him more. But honestly, my vote is not for the man Trump. He represents a party, and my vote is for the Republican Party. I really like Pence. So I've been telling myself my vote is for Pence. But I've had some friends that have struggled with voting for Trump, even if they voted for him 4 years ago. And I just have to keep going back and saying, I cannot, for the things that the Democratic Party, some of the things that they stand for are in line with my value system, and the things that the Republican Party stands for are in line with my value system. So I have to vote in accordance with my conscience and with my values. So that's where I am with it. Mm-hmm. How does that sit with you?
I notice like there's this yeah, but, that I have to calm and just listen to you. So it's challenging. It's uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. I have such an urge to want to try to change your mind. And I know I can't, right? And it hits me in this like place where it's like, you're my dear friend, and you don't align with me in this place that seems fundamental, and how there's like this, I mean, is that cognitive dissonance? I don't know if that's quite the right word for it, but it's this place where it's hard to hold that. Like, it just feels like two things that don't fit together. And yeah, I'm reminded of when you came to visit, and we had so many conversations. I mean, that was just what, in February? gosh, that was a lifetime ago.
I know, so much has happened.
And how many conversations we had, and they were in the car, they were driving, and we dove deeper into topics that we haven't like just really wrestled with abortion, and really like I gave you the opportunity to try to save me, you know, and just like these things that are so deeply fundamental to what we believe. And it was exhausting.
Yeah.
Like exhausting to the point that I don't experience in any other relationship in my life, you know? And then I go like, oh, I get it. I get why people aren't on board with this. Like, I get why we just gravitate to cities where everybody thinks the same way we do, because it's hard work.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I would not give up my friendship with you, you know? It makes me cry. Like, I just really love you.
I really love you. It's pretty incredible that we're still friends.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was a 20-year hiatus there. I mean, let's be real. Like, we didn't know how to navigate this for 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I so appreciate that. I appreciate you being able to hold that tension, because I think that's why a lot of people probably cut off relationships with family members and even, you know, people that they were going to marry or whatever, that it's super hard to hold that tension. And I appreciate it. And thank you for expressing your love for me as a friend. That makes me feel safe to be able to share my heart with you, because like I said, I do think our greatest fear is shame. And if you think you're going to be shamed by someone else, you won't share it. And I hope that, well, I believe that you and I have gotten to a place where we are able to believe the best about each other.
Yeah. I know it. So we've committed to, is it weekly conversations between now and probably a ways after the election? It's probably a good idea. Where we're just going to do unedited 15 minutes. So from here on out, let's bring the hardest conversations that we can and see where we go with them. You on board?
Oh, yes, I'm on board. It scares me.
So see you next week.
Did we talk about anything hard enough today?
I think we're just laying groundwork. I think.
Let me
to ask a great the curious question about Trump. Are we at 15 minutes?
I don't know. Probably are. But yeah. I would like to flip it around and ask you the same curious question about Biden, and to say, do you still feel as strongly as you have before about voting for Biden?
Is that a curious question? I use the word still. Because remember when I said, do you still support Trump?
Do you, let's see, so that didn't feel curious. What are some of the primary factors that are keeping you, should I say keeping you?
No, don't say keeping.
What are some of the primary factors motivating you to continue voting for Biden? Is that curious? That's probably not.
How about voting for Biden?
I was just voting for Biden. Motivating you voting for Biden. There you go.
Let's put it this way. He was not my pick. Not at all. I was so sad that Elizabeth Warren did not get the nomination. I watched 20 minutes of that debate and turned it off. And I just kept thinking, oh my goodness, I would have loved to have seen Elizabeth up there. Biden, of the two, is the adult in the room. That was the debate Trump could not contain himself. He has no impulse control. And of the two, of what I saw, Biden was grounded, mature, and focused on the issues. Trump was bullying and unhinged. I mean, I didn't need media to tell me that. I was watching him and he was uncontrolled in his mannerisms and the way he was talking. And I crave a mature adult leading this country. I mean, so that is enough for me. And I see Biden collaborating with people in a way that makes me feel confident that a certain gravitas will return to the White House. I think it's important that we are respected around the world. And I don't see that at all. All of the leaders of the other nations, I don't care if it's because of poor media portrayal, they do not respect our president. And Trump himself has interacted with them. And so I worry about our global impact. I worry about the dying of our earth. The West Coast has been engulfed in flames, and that is a result of climate change. And I worry that we will have a planet to live on, and Trump is actively removing protections for our earth. And so I could go on, but like just seeing those two men in the debate, I'm going to vote for the adult, not the toddler. And yes, that is a judgment, but that it was such a gut response seeing the two of them. So did you see the debate?
I did see the debate, yeah. So,
and what was your impression?
Well, I want to reflect back first what you just told me. And I can see by your facial expressions and your body language how it does look like it's gut level for you, that your response is gut level. And I hear you saying that you are afraid of our global reputation, that you're afraid of our climate, and that part of your motivation is the comparison between how Trump and Biden carried themselves in the debate. Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, just a small change is that I said, what I actually said is I worry about our earth dying, not so much the climate. The climate is a symptom of our earth being extremely unwell. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Well, and with those particular motivations and passions for you, I can see why you would make the choice that you're making.
Yeah, thanks.
I did see the debates, and I watched them like this, like it was the most cringy thing I think I've ever had to sit through in my life. And my husband kept going, "Honey, you don't have to watch this." I'm like, I know, but I need to watch it, but it's really painful. But for me, I think that I saw them being toddlers on both sides, that they were both interrupting, that some of the things that Biden said, like "shut up, man," and calling the president a clown, and things that I thought were terribly reprehensible. So for me, I saw the immaturity on both sides, and that was tough to stomach for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a communication coach, I was like, can I please have a session with each of you? Give you
oh my goodness. I know.
liked that Biden did is that he looked directly in the camera and talked to the American people.
Yep.
I was like, rah, Trump missed his opportunity because he totally could have done that. He could have.
Yeah.
And so somebody is coaching Biden well, like, just your job is to connect with the American people. And there were moments that he did that. And I was pretty disappointed that Trump didn't take those opportunities to do that as well.
Yeah, no, that's interesting to have your communication coach hat on, seeing that. Yeah, Chris Christie coached Trump, and I was like, really? That was the best you could get for a coach? You know, like there's so many other people who would have done a better job for him, I think. So
yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's super important that we continue these conversations, especially now, because it's going to just continue to heat up between now and November. So let's stay connected to each other.
Okay, dear. Till next week.
Love you. Bye.